Thank you very much, and welcome to MSI Cooldown after day 2 of Group Time. Quick shot joined by Raz and Azael. 16 minutes and 1 second, the quickest international game in our history as far as we've been tracking the stats. I mean, it's phenomenal, it's shocking, it's surprising. What else is it, Azael?
I mean, it would be insane if this was against Fengbu Buffalo. They just did that to SKT.
Yeah.
That was faker. Right? Like, that is the most mind-blowing part about it to me. Not that this happened to a team, that this happened to the team. This is the 3-time world champions. This is the greatest player in League of Legends history, and they got absolutely trashed.
We thought this was going to be like top 2 of the tournament, like between Invictus Gaming and SKT. And I was really hyped just seeing Sona Tarek locked in because like SKT trying that out against the best of Invictus Gaming. Invictus Gaming have never went up against a Sona Tarek composition. This hasn't happened in the LPL.
No, it hasn't. And of course, it started with some craziness. This is, by the way, the quickest first blood in MSI history, actually beating the previous record, which was set during the play-ins earlier this event. It then goes to level 1 teleport. It then goes to Jackie Love getting what was an 8-minute bloodthirster. And 8 minutes later, the game is over. I mean, despite Faker trying, the game was lost around him.
Yeah, I mean, they just did such a good job. You saw Ning everywhere. It's the bot lane dive, then it's back to Faker a number of times, taking him down. And when Jackie Love's that far ahead on his Raven, we have all played that game in solo queue where he gets the Bloodthirster that early, and you're like, great, I hit all my skills, I'm on top of him, and he's still at full health. Like, you just can't outdamage the healing.
SKT legitimately, after that point, did as well as they could. Irelia rotated bottom side when there's a second dive looming over, another huge building wave coming in mid lane, and then guess what? Invictus Gaming said, okay, we recognize you, but we still are gonna bull you right over.
So I have 2 questions that come from this. Now, you said you liked seeing SKT locking in the Sona Tarek.
Yes.
I did not. I was sitting backstage, I saw him in, and I went, this isn't an LCK thing. This isn't something that I've seen a lot. This isn't something that I associate with the Korean players. So what is it that you did like? And obviously the game was lost, irrelevant of the champions, right? But like, why do you appreciate their attempt?
It's the same reason why we kind of talk about Invictus Gaming going out and like trying new things, being as bullish and aggressive as possible, is because this is you trying to learn as much and gather as much information going into the best of 5. A lot of eyes for us were going on to how valuable Sona Tarek is, and it's going to work against, you know, the most aggressive team in the tournament. And while the answer is no, for me, going into this tournament, I was like, well, for certain, SKT and Invictus Gaming, I'm almost guaranteeing them going into the best of 5. They need to learn these lessons before we find themselves going into IG. And so for now, we're saying, that's insane. But if you're thinking in the future, then SKT is saying, okay, in drafting situations, we're just not going to go for it.
You know, my question is just like, I think I understand that, you know, the idea of like feeling out the meta, of trying different strategies, of doing all these things. What is the lesson you learn when you're seeing games like this against IG, where it's like, okay, well, they're just too good?
But then what do we learn? Because, Azael, you and I were sitting backstage and we're talking about our hopes for this matchup. You know, I personally wanted to see SKT look competitive against IG. I was hoping for IG, G2, SKT to be the top 3. After I've seen what IG have done to the entire competition and the plethora of styles they've employed, whether smart or not, I mean, what's your big takeaway as far as the leaders and the favorites for this tournament? Can anybody even contend IG? I
mean, I think not with the performances that we've seen in the first half of the round robin. I think we're going to have to see teams significantly step up to really be able to challenge them. Certainly, you know, in the G2 game, there were drafting issues. You know, that was kind of taken on the chest by Grabs. He was saying that that was his fault. So we'll have to see, you know, if G2 can kind of match up better against them in the second round. Certainly, SKT fans are going to point to the Sona Tarek and say, well, things went wrong from the very get-go. But I think regardless of the draft, teams are going to have to play at a higher level to really be able to match, because we have seen, you know, how many times, 5, 6 times of Rookie versus Caps now. Rookie has slaughtered him every time. Rookie has just looked a cut above every mid laner, and the Shy, I would say, has looked a cut above every single top laner. And when the game is so centered around solo lanes and taking over the enemy jungle, at this point in the game, it feels like you have to play better than what you showed if anyone's going to challenge them.
That's why I would highlight that in my G2 matchup. I think if you can get past that mental block, prioritize the lane a little bit more, certainly you have Jankos who's going to be there on by your side. I would expect that to be a much easier matchup if they prioritize that. So for me, I still have a lot of faith in G2 in that best of 5. I still think SKT can also handle them as well. So I think the tournament is still wide open when we get to that best of 5.
I mean, interesting when you think 2 of the biggest competitions to IG, both went for bold decisions in draft that did not pay off.
Yeah.
I want to go into that in a moment because after today's results, Invictus Gaming, they're still undefeated in first place and on track to defend the LPL's titles of MSI and Worlds from 2018. Just behind them, G2 Esports, they went 2-0 to end the day. They're in second place and ahead of Team Liquid and SKT, who will be facing off tomorrow. Before we talk about tomorrow's schedule, let's stick with some of the results from today. Obviously, 6 hours ago, G2 versus TL for the first 20 minutes. I was nervous, I was anxious. Impact was playing that Aatrox, and there was trades, blows for blows, back and forth. And I got quite excited seeing what TL brought to the table during the early stages of the game.
I was really excited. I think for me, what I took away from this was G2 came in smart, understanding they can split the sides of the map and really challenge Impact to carry. And then you're right, I was also surprised that, Impact came in strong. Teleport to the bottom side of the map to really get himself and secure that lead. But then, side lanes started opening up. I really enjoyed how G2 always matched the Silas there with the Akali, and so you got to see that play earlier.
But Raz, if you step back from the minutiae of the game,
Yes.
what's your takeaway from Team Liquid, who was the underdog going into that matchup? And G2 maybe, because I thought they would have had a more convincing win, but it was very competitive for a long time. Or maybe Azel's jumping in.
Go for it.
I mean, I'd still say it was very convincing. I think on the side of G2, yes, there were some bright spots certainly for TL. I think the way that Double Lift and CoreJJ were able to play in some of the mid game fights worked quite good. I think impacts both to the Shy and Wonder better today than people expected. Those certainly were positives. But let's be honest, I mean, Caps destroyed that game. He absolutely ran over that game. It was still, a 30 or so minute victory. There were perhaps opportunities, I think, for TL to maybe get back in it. But I think what is so impressive about G2 and what has really stood out to me is not just the way that they are able to individually outplay matchups and get advantages, but it's how they move those advantages around the map. When you look at G2 against SKT, we saw it against Khan with Wonder, the whole game plan, Caps and Yankos up to top lane, Jace is super fed. He's not just sitting in that lane, he's going by, he's taking that turret. Then he goes mid, he takes that turret. Same thing happened here with Caps. Yes, Impact is strong. Well, guess what? Salas is even stronger, and now he's in your lane. Now you're forced to ult. Now you're stuck under your turret. And they just move their advantages around the map so well, and that is what's most impressive about G2 for me.
In that specific instance, when Impact has 2 kills, then I look towards Xmithie and say, protect Impact and push him forward so he has an open lane to work with. Then he can rotate towards these plays. You need Impact working with you. And what we actually saw was a 3-man dive topside with, Xmithie working towards the bottom side of the map. If you have your top lane as your highest priority, you should be flexible enough to then play around it. But it seemed like Team Liquid, they're not used to playing through Impact when he's strong, and you got to see that.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I mean, I think when you look at some of the stats that Impact has put on the table, he was one of the big question marks coming into the tournament. And after 2 days of gameplay, my eyes are going to turn a little bit more towards Xmithie and some of the decision making. He's been caught out a lot, and it's put Team Liquid further behind than maybe it needed to. But these are problems that can be resolved, day to day.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he had a very poor showing today, especially I think the Hecarim game was pretty egregious, giving over those early kills. Being spotted, he tries to gank mid lane, then he goes to Scuttle. They know exactly where he is. Mid is pushing for both, mid is pushing for IG, bot is pushing for IG. Of course, you're going to get collapsed on and actually taken down. So that one was pretty bad. I will say that they did pick scaling jungle matchups in both games, and he was kind of on the weaker end of that. So maybe some of the adjustment will be, hey, I can't actually get away with this against these junglers. They are too good to be playing Sejuani and Olaf. They're too good to be playing Hecarim and Rek'Sai. And maybe TL will put more priority on getting a stronger early game jungler.
That's why I have some faith in them going into the second phase of the tournament, where I still think that looking in video review sessions, if I'm Xmithie, you could definitely find points that you can get better. In that Hecarim game, I like the Hecarim pick. Like, personally, I think you can do a lot more with it if you was able to just hard clear towards, Krugs and topside. That is an opening for you. Or if the team decision on that one, because ultimately it's how do they want to perform in the tournament? Does Xmithie on carry junglers, or at least better matchups, then playing through Jensen, is that a better strategy? Personally, I think that would be the case. Jensen is playing so well in this tournament, it's better to bring him up.
Well, let's take a look tomorrow, because you mentioned the second half of this tournament. We'll see whether or not Team Liquid can bounce back tomorrow. They'll close out the first round robin by taking on SK Telecom, who are both sitting at 2-2. Then later in the day, we'll play Flash Wolves Invictus Gaming, SKT G2. Let's start first of all, the two teams that are 2-2. We've seen some shaky performances from both SK Telecom and Team Liquid, but if there were ever a time to surprise SKT after a 16-minute defeat at the hands of IG.
Yeah.
Surely there's some advantages of a Team Liquid to capitalize on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely fair to say TL has played better than SKT in this tournament. I think that TL has actually been more competitive in both their losses than SKT were. They were absolutely dominated by both G2 and IG. Yes, TL handily lost those, but they were more competitive games at least. It was not so one-sided. And they were quite clean against both Flash Wolves and PvB. They play a similar style, and if SKT is not playing, up to their kind of lofty standards that we're used to, they are certainly approachable for TL. TL can take this team, I think, in a late game.
I would push that in the sense that for SKT, when I saw both, like, two of the games where they were falling, the first game of the tournament when they went up against G2, I think that was, we all talked about how a drafting decision that Klid, while he played well in the early portions of the game, the rest is like, there's not much I can do here. While in this same situation, it seems like when they were pushed to the wall with the Taric and Sona, they literally had no wave clearing options, no damage options. The Sona is like, I just keep going into the mana pool while Draven's just going wild. So I think I would still say that SKT is certainly the stronger team going into that matchup, but both teams have breathing room. Both teams have a very similar style of being able to go for a more elongated game, so you ain't going anywhere near a 15-minute extravaganza.
Give me some closing thoughts before we wrap out the day. What does Team Liquid have to do to beat SKT in your mind?
To me, I want to see Olaf or early game jungler specifically on Xmithie, and for him to continue to play through mid. If Jensen's going to continue to perform, then you have yourself a bridge to the late game so Doublelift can come in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of more of the same sort of style that we've seen from TL. They are a similar style team. I want to see them having a defensive pick generally for impact. I think as long as he's drawing pressure and surviving in lane, he does best when he's spending his resources down to the bottom side and helping there. I think as long as Jensen is in a favorable matchup against Faker and you have some sort of strong early game jungler, so it can't just be your lanes getting run over when you can't compete in 2v2, that is certainly a way in for TL. And to your point, I mean, I think SKT is the better team, but I do think in this tournament, SKT has played worse. And it is only 4 games thus far, and we've seen Korean teams have weak group stages and then come over and run over a tournament. SKT, if I recall correctly,
feels different this time.
Finished 4th in the past at an MSI, then went on to win it. And I do agree it feels different because we're coming off of Worlds in which everyone's like, yeah, well, best of 5s are coming. They're still going to slam us.
Yeah.
And then they didn't even get to semis, right? so it feels like for the first time, it's more real and people give more credence to when the Korean teams are struggling and having issues. You're like, ooh, well, maybe they don't.
It's also, it just feels weird that the team that is absolutely dominating right now does it so frivolously and so carelessly. When you think Invictus Gaming, undefeated, gave 50 kills in a 33-minute game to Fongvu Buffalo, just took down SK Telecom, the 3-time world champions, in 16 minutes. And that's less than 24 hours apart.
Yeah, you're going to be going up against a different beast when you go into best of 5s. Like when I watch Invictus Gaming, domestically in their best of 3s in the regular season, you're like, I have no faith in this. You're like EDG is better. TOP, you're willing to throw it all away just simply because when they go up against these different teams, they're willing to take every fight, willing to throw all their brain away in a sense, but then they go into the best of 5s.
But they still got the hands.
They got the hands.
Sick.
The hands are still moving. But then you go into these best of 5s and they play so intelligently. Like their vision control spikes up. Baolan and Ning move so well together, so they still have the mechanics quite obviously, but it seems like they really are honed in and focused.
Well, I can't wait to see who can contest Invictus, and I certainly hope somebody rises to the challenge. For myself, the casters, and the entire broadcast crew, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for more of MSI 2019.
G2 1-1 after a tough first day. Will the scores even up, or can TL pull ahead with a 3-0 start to the group stage? Caps going forward, Jankos is here as well, does manage to land the stun in the Shroud. Invisible, but I don't think it's gonna be long enough. The flash out clutch from Jensen. Jankos wants it, he's going for it. The axe will come through.
That was pretty crazy of you, but good job.
Yes, let's find the kill here. One with a clean flash to try to make it to safety. The healing now coming in. Impact has to be careful. Wonder, does he have the time to wait this one out? The kill going through for Impact.
Look at Caps going in.
Hungry for blood, using everything to go and stealing the killing with it.
Back to Lysandra.
Missing a third proc to the Dark and Blade. Impact running out of time here. Caps gonna try to take him down. Perfectly timed. Caps now unstoppable.
Caps running over this game.
I can also double soon. Oh my god. Oh my god. No way. They actually broke in the shine. Yeah. They actually are, yeah. Oh my god.
They find the ace. G2 3-1 to close out day 2. Can he find the second? It's close. The health bar's below 100 each, but he's got to watch out for the Prey Seeker. Another grasp. Dominion to grab both kills. Clit's coming around as well. Elise might come in for a little bit more. Looks like damage can't find that just yet, but here comes the Rek'Sai. Big damage for Clit on a rampage now. He's a monster. Another Infernal spawning. Oh! And now you got more problems. And Faker's on the board with his first kill. Looking for the second, flashing over the root. Now we see if they can find the tower dive as well. Ignite goes down immediately. They're finding the focus right in. Jackulov going to take down Double If Ning, going to go under and come back up, resetting the tower aggro beautifully. Rookie is in the midst of the fight. They have to be careful. Double trying to make it safe. He can do the QSS, but Rookie got the kill. That's going to be it. It's going to be a clean sweep for IG as they cut through the remaining members of Liquid. There might be a re-engage already, a stun, and the fight has continued. We're doing it! Damage output, Rookie's already dead! They're really trying to take advantage of this matchup. Oh, stun's down for Faker, to land the stun though for Ning. There's plenty of damage in a Rune Prison! Regardless, they're gonna have the root, they're gonna have plenty of damage, but you've got Clit here, gonna find some damage. Will they find more in the re-engage? They've still got the cannon coming around the map, and Jackulov just lifesteal takes the entirety of SKT. Finds himself the second kill. Invictus Gaming smash the world record! They smash SKT!